Hey, this is Mark Peterson. I'm the BioMed 2 teacher here at Benilde-St. Margaret's, and I put together this screencast for those of you that were unable to make the meeting or you just couldn't get enough of the stuff about AP seminar. So this course, this AP seminar course, is through the biomedical lens, kind of the focus of this course. So I'm going to talk about the course and the specifics of AP seminar in the biomedical lens. So in this diagram, this shows where AP seminar fits into what the College Board calls their capstone program. So if students take AP seminar and then you continue on into their senior year and take AP research, and they've also taken some other AP courses and scored successfully, they'll get something called an AP capstone diploma. If a student is just taking the AP seminar course, they're just going to get AP credit for an AP class. Probably qualifies as an English class, but I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that a little bit further. So the AP course is taught from this perspective. So the College Board uses this quest format. So students come up with a question, they learn how to understand and analyze the question, they evaluate multiple perspectives, and that's particularly where the lenses come in there. They synthesize all those ideas and amalgamate them and come up with their own point of view, and then they transmit that argument. They transmit that perspective. They might work in a team, they might work individually. It depends on which one of the performance tasks they're working on. So there are different lenses that the College Board wants this course to focus on. So you can take a look at these and you can kind of imagine what these would be. I'm going to be providing students with examples of these lenses on various topics in biomedical science. Our heavy focus, as you might well imagine, as it should be with the name of the course being BioMed 2, is going to be on the science aspect, but we're also going to be looking at issues from these multiple perspectives and eventually creating arguments to support claims that students have come up with related to particular issues in biomedical science fields. So embedded in this course, because I believe strongly in students doing science, the best way to learn science is to actually do it, to get to the content through the process of science, because that's how scientists have been doing this since Galileo and Anton van Leeuwenhoek and Robert Hooke and Gregor Mendel, all those biologists that have come before us. So by doing science, we can get to the content and get to a deeper understanding about that. That content is going to be important for them when it comes to creating arguments to support claims. So the science practices are going to be a big deal for us. So our first unit this year is going to look at this question: should animals be used for biomedical research? We're going to do several labs in the science lens, and the first one has to do with an organism called Tetrahymena thermophilus. Tetrahymena thermophilus is a little protist. It's a single-celled organism that has cilia. And so we're looking at this ciliated organism and looking at what happens when we expose this organism to alcohol and to cigarette smoke extract. So it's kind of like smoke in a test tube, if you will. It's cigarette smoke that has been pulled through some water, and then we expose the little wee beasties to this, and we look for changes in behavior. They're ciliated, just like our respiratory tract is ciliated, and so it's a good model. So we're not going to be experimenting on people, but we'll use this as one of the first looks at animal experimentation, animal research. So here's some students. This is from Wednesday's class, actually using a tool called the micropipette, where they were exposing the wee beasties. Since they're microscopic, we have to use microscopes. I'll say they're adequate microscopes for capturing with video. So this image shows students using the capture feature of the microscope. They have great optics. I'm a little disappointed in the cameras. And we also have some students who adapt and overcome like good Marines should, and they use their iPhone holding it up to the lens, and they get really good images that way. So they're looking for changes in behavior, and that's the bottom line. Eventually, they're going to come up with a claim, have some evidence, and then some reasoning behind it to support their work. We're also going to do 3 other labs in this unit about animal research. Another one dealing with tetrahymena, another one with some wee beasties called Lumbriculus variegatus. They're small, they're kind of like miniature earthworms, but they're not, they're aquatic. The California mudworms is what they are. And they're a good research tool. They're used all over the place for animal research. And then we're going to finish off by looking at what happens when we expose some mammalian cells, so mouse cells, to something that disrupts their shape and cell division. So that'll be probably sometime in October that we'll be using the mouse fibroblasts. But the bottom line, that's going to provide the students with some lens material, some information, some actual experience on doing research on organisms in their argument about should animals be used for biomedical research. So we're going to use these as part of the science lens. So the first semester in AP Seminar, we're going to be hitting 3 big topics. These are by my choice this year. In the future, it might be a little bit different, but this is just how it's going to roll this year. So the 3 topics are animal testing, stem cell therapies, and genomics and genetic engineering. The students will look at each of these topics through all of those different lenses, and then eventually come up with an argument to support a question. I'm providing the question the first time around, so should animals be used for research? That's the first question that they have to kind of come to. The second question has to do with stem cell therapy, and we're not going to be talking about embryonic stem cells. We're just going to be talking about stem cell therapy because there's some interesting practices that are out there that I think are pretty debatable. Genetic engineering, extremely debatable when it comes to should we be changing these organisms and the idea of GMOs and related to biomedical research. So there's lots of good investigations scientifically we can do with these things. And they're going to be creating, so there are basically 3 practice things for the first semester. The first one, and you'll see why these are important practices, the first one is going to be a team presentation that has to last 6 to 7 minutes. And then each of those team members will write a 1,000-word essay, a 1,000-word argument, let's call it that way, a 1,000-word argument in response to that first question about animal research. The next, related to stem cell therapy, they'll do an individual presentation that has to be 4 to 5 minutes and write another argument, 1,000 words. And they'll do the same thing kind of again. So with genomics and genetic engineering, they'll go back to the group thing and write an individual essay related to the genomics and genetic engineering question that they've come up with. So first semester is going to be practice, and it's going to be practice for the things that students are going to be doing second semester when the College Board kind of flips the switch and students are doing work based on some things we're going to call performance tasks. So we have 3 big things that are happening in second semester. So when second semester comes around, they finished those 2 group tasks and that individual task. Second semester, the College Board is going to ask students to work by themselves. So at that point in time, it's kind of hands-off. So I really can't answer questions about, is this a good piece of writing? What do you think about this? I can't answer those. They can't go to their English teacher and ask for them to edit it. Technically, they're not even supposed to ask moms and dads for help with this. They can talk with each other. They can talk with other members of the group. They can talk with other members of the other BioMed 2 class, but they can't get help from one another. So that's why first semester is going to be practice in the performance tasks for the group and the individual. This first performance task is going to be of their choice. I'll have a list of biomedical topics, and maybe if there's something that they found interesting in the animal research area or stem cells or genetic ideas, they might come up with their own topic there and run with that. They're going to own it, so I think it'd be best if they make that decision for themselves, let their curiosity drive their work. The second performance task, so you see it's kind of modeled like that first semester individual project. The second performance task, they do the same thing. They do individual work to argue something. They're going to do a short presentation. They're going to write a longer paper. This is probably going to be more in depth than the performance tasks, but performance task 1 as far as their paper. The twist here, and here's where it gets a little weird, is that the College Board is going to provide the topics. I don't know what the topics are going to be. I'm kind of thinking this is it's going to arrive in a sealed envelope in an armored car with armed guards. I don't really even know what it's going to be, and not sure exactly which lens the students will choose to write from, but that's going to be up to their choice to identify a topic, come up with a question, create arguments, lines of reasoning by themselves. So both of these things are pretty much hands-off from my perspective as far as direct instruction. I can point to like general trends, but I can't give any helpful hints. Like, this sentence is not very strong, or your argument is missing some line. I can't do that for these students. So that's why it's really important we get lots of practice in first semester. So those two things need to be completed and uploaded by April 30th, and on May 7th, there is an end of course exam. So typically AP courses, AP Bio, AP Gov, whatever it happens to be, there's an end of course exam. And there will be an end of course exam related to this. It has 2 parts to it. It'll take up a morning. It's on the morning of May 7th. I'm like 98% that's the correct date, but I'm pretty sure that is correct. To come up with their AP score, these 2 performance tasks and the end of course exam are broken up like this. So that end of course exam will account for 45% of their score, and so on. You can read those numbers for yourself. And eventually the College Board has an algorithm that will put this into the typical 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 in an AP course is considered to be passing, 4 is kind of like a B, and 5 would be exemplary. That would be good. So the framework for this course really sets up next year. So this is AP Seminar. AP Research is kind of like it's a year-long course that students would choose one thing of their own, do independent research on, choose a lens, and then write and present something at the end of the year, probably to a group of colleagues, maybe people that have helped them with their research, administration from the school, an authentic audience. I plan on doing that for the students throughout this year, but this course really feeds into the AP Research course nicely. As I mentioned last night, if you were here, that second performance task, I don't know what it's going to be about. It's not necessarily guaranteed to be anything biomedical science. There will be something in there related to science, but it won't necessarily, I can't guarantee it'll be biomedical science. Once the AP exam is finished on May 7th, then we've got a good month of school to jump back in and do protein testing, look at other questions related to pandemics, or how viruses work, or microbiology, immunology. There's all kinds of good stuff that we can do for the remaining month of class. So it's just that second performance task that I have some hesitation about with regards to, it's not really guaranteed to be biomedical science. So that's one of the reasons why I called that meeting, or asked you to come to that meeting at night school, and why I'm trying to get this word out so you understand what the course is about. Everything that I've talked with you about on the screencast, the students have heard from me already. Yeah. So if you have questions, my email is mpeterson@bsm.org. Shoot me an email. If we need to have some other conversation, I'll be glad to answer that. This is going to be a good science experience for your students. They're going to write a lot. Scientists do a lot of writing. So I think in the long run, it's going to benefit them. They're going to write argumentatively, which is a very strong skill to have in any course you're taking, and to come up with a logical line of reasoning. That's going to do nothing but benefit them in the long run. So if you want to follow us on Twitter, I do take pictures of what's going on in class. So it's at Red Knight BioMed. That's our Twitter handle. And if you want to keep up with things that are going on, like when I assign things or students have deadlines or what, I use Remind. I post everything on PowerSchool Learning, but I also use Remind. And all you do is you send a text message to 81010, and then in the message you put at BSM Biomed 2. So maybe it's raised some questions, maybe it's answered some. So let's keep this dialogue going. Thanks. Hope that helps.